the digital delight of jazz and what's more on WFDU HD2, Teaneck.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
What's happening, blues people? You know what time it is. Jack Dappa Blues time, where you learn them blues, where you get nothing but blues, and more blues. Let me welcome you to the new year. Okay, this is WFDU HD2. If you're not familiar with us, you need to get familiarized, especially with the show Jack Dappa Blues, because we do blues music, blues history, blues heritage, blues tradition. As my man Brock Lightning say, blues cultural. And today, a 5 o'clock guest, living legend, winner of the Lifetime Achievement Award in the blues. Over, I'd say about 55, 60 years as a blues musician, and not just any blues musician. We're talking about real guitar blues right here. Soul down home funky Chicago blues. Mr. The Chief, Eddy Clearwater. How are you, sir?
Very good. How are you today, Jack? Very good to hear your voice.
Likewise, sir. Likewise. Man, I'm honored and I'm excited, and I'm just feeling great. You have such a long history and journey and legacy in our tradition and in our music. I just can't wait to jump into it. I think what I would like to do, and if you're listening, Lynn and Garland, thank you guys. What I would like to do is ask you, before we go into anything about your current album and what's going on now,
okay,
if you could remember the beginning stages of your journey, what introduced you to the blues?
Well, I was introduced to the blues very early on by my uncle back in Mississippi. He had a little juke joint, and he finally got a jukebox put in there. And I would every weekend I would hang around his place just to get a chance to play the jukebox. I would get a quarter here and there, and I would just clean up the tables and stuff just in order to be there. So then they brought records in by Louis Jordan and Lightning Hopkins and John Lee Hooker and put on a jukebox. It was like 12 records on the jukebox at that time.
Wow!
And I heard Louis Jordan, and I was really convinced from there. I said, this is what I'd like to do with my life. What he's doing.
Wow! So now, first of all, this is our tradition, but in the sense that your uncle, if I'm correct, had a juke joint?
Yes, in Macon, Mississippi, yes.
So you were grandfathered into the business. This is the family business for you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You may say that. You might as well say that, yeah.
So now, at the time when you were a little guy, and you're in there, and you're putting on Johnny Lee and all these people, and you're like, I want to do this with my life. Who were you able to meet that came through there and tore it down?
Well, I never really met any musicians except for by listening to them on the record until I moved to Chicago, because I moved to Birmingham, Alabama from from Macon, Mississippi. Then I moved to Chicago at the age 15. I first got to hear people like Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, Jimmy Reed, and a whole bunch of people, and Elmo James, in the city of Chicago, playing blues every night. And that's why my uncle invited me to come to Chicago, because he was from Mississippi, where I was, but he came to Chicago ahead of me, and he had went and met all these people like Muddy and Little Walter and Howlin' Wolf. He said, if you want to pursue music as a career, if you come to Chicago, you'll get that opportunity, because there's people in Chicago that plays blues every night, you know. And so I said to him, I wrote him a letter back and said, send me a ticket, I'll be on my way. Sent me a ticket on a Greyhound bus for $15. And my grandparents allowed me to come to Chicago at the age 15 because they knew I was going to be with my uncle.
Right.
Yes. So then I got to meet Little Walter. He took me to see Elmo James, Reed, and I was in all of my glory. And then later on, people came on the scene like Magic Sam,
right,
and Otis Rush, and oh boy, was I blown away when I heard Magic Sam and Otis Rush. I said, this is really the great stuff, you know.
No, I dig it. So you took the what some would call the African American migration from the Delta and through across the Mississippi River up to Chicago. Now, how's Alabama? Was it at that time? How was there a blues scene? What was the setup then at that time?
Yeah, that was blues scene, and I would hear it on the radio every day. They would talk about clubs like the Blue Frog. They would talk about bands that were playing there. But I wasn't old enough to get into clubs, so I just listened to it on the radio. But by me coming to Chicago when I was 15, my uncle could take me there, and I would get to hear people like Muddy Waters and people like that, because they would let me in because I'd be with my uncle. So,
man, that's
that blues scene in Birmingham.
That's serious. So now, when do you remember your first time? Where actually, you know what, Betty? Yes, where was your first performance in Chicago? Was it in front of one of these cats? Was it in a local juke? How did that come about?
Oh yeah, it was in I finally got a little trio together. A gentleman by the name of Harry Reeves. I told him I wanted to start a band. So he says, I know some musicians that I can see if I can get them together for you. And we get together and have rehearsal and see how it works out. So he did. He got a guy named Johnny Rogers and Richard Rogers, and a piano player by the name of John Mabel or something. No, Lazy Bill, the keyboard player. So we got together and rehearsed, and then I went and did a few auditions at a few of the local taverns, and told them I wanted a band. I wanted to come in and audition for getting a gig to work there. So they said, well, come in with your band and audition, and if we like it, we'll hire you. So we went in a few places, and they said, come in on Friday and Saturday and play. So that's how I got started around the south side of Chicago. And then from the south side, I started playing on the west side. Yeah.
Was it a different scene on the west from the south side?
Pretty close to the same thing. They both were bluesy, but then the west side was more bluesy. In my opinion, it was more bluesy than the south side, because that's where I got to meet Magic Sam and Otis Rush and Hal Barrage, singer on the west side. So
now I want to step to the side for a moment, because I would like you to tell more of your journey. But you said a couple of things that I want us to address, especially because of the climate of music as a whole, not just blues, but music as a whole, the music business. and more importantly, the artists and musicians. And you said that you approached this gentleman. You said you were going to put a band together. So, okay, let's get some guys I know that's good. And then first thing you do, you put the band together. Then you rehearsed. Then you auditioned. And you auditioned to perform live. You didn't even audition for a record label, correct?
Right. Yeah. And taverns. Yeah.
Okay. Now the reason why I asked you and I worded it that way because that's specific. Somewhere, somehow, from those days up until now, there's been a disconnect where a lot of artists don't go through that process.
Exactly, like you said, they get whatever they're going to get together, and they go to record companies and audition and make audition tapes or whatever, and try and get a recording contract. But then you have to go from ground level, or just try and go in and let people hear you. And if they like you, they hear you. Would they pay you? Maybe if you're lucky, you get paid union scales. If you're lucky, if you're really lucky, they get paid union scales.
Mm.
You had to really start from the very, very beginning. Yes.
So, sir, let me ask you: you coming out of that old school, true school, how important is it to take that route, the ground level up? How important is that?
It's very highly, highly important because you're going from experience. You're taking it from just like you raise a crop. You plant the seeds in the ground, and you have to cultivate it and make sure you give it water and whatever it needs to make the crop grow, and it grows from the ground up.
Mm.
From the time you cultivate it, you harvest it, and that's your reward.
Oh, that's the truth. And I mean, you've been blessed. You have a legacy through several generations of music, and you're still doing the blues. Now, do you remember at what point the blues began to be called rhythm and blues and all these other names?
Yes, that was done. That began in the 60s, if I may be correct. Yeah, in the 60s, like with the Jackie Wilson people and Lord Price, and then later on James Brown, and then it became rhythm and blues, R&B.
So would you believe that kind of, because where I'm getting to right now is how did the blues shift to where people believe it's not a commercially viable? Do you think when the name of it changed to rhythm and blues and it became, I guess, more commercial or pop music for the time, do you think that kind of is where blues began to not be commercially viable in terms of radio and pop music, or did it take longer than that?
Well, it took a while. People would hear it, and then they said, "Well, rhythm and blues," and which means it's going back. We all know it came from the blues, but they give it like they added a rhythm and blues, so to give it another name. So it automatically it was put into another category, the rhythm and blues, which is R&B. Which was more accepted by more people than the deep blues was at the time. It became more accepted because of the airplay on the radio, and so much airplay.
Now you do black music. Played it simple, whether you call it rhythm and blues, funk, soul, or just plain old blues. What inspires your music?
Pardon?
What inspires your music?
Just different things that I hear from people. Get inspired from the things that people do, or things that I see that's going on in people's lives, and I get inspired. I'll write a song about it, and it's just like I wrote a song. I went to the Berlin Wall on one of my tours. The band took me there and showed me the Berlin Wall in Germany, and they explained the whole story to me, and I was so depressed. I said, I'm really depressed by this, but I'm glad I got to see it. Much about the Berlin Wall. You know. So I said, well, when I go home, I'm going to write a song about this. So I came and I wrote the Berlin Wall, tear down the walls of hate.
Right.
The wall of love. So,
wow.
It's an inspiration about different conditions in life of people that people go through. And
wow. Because you have a long catalog of music. I just want to make one point about something we spoke about a few minutes ago to the audience. You know, when Mr. Clearwater said that he went to meet his uncle in Chicago, this was in 1950. So this was at the peak of chess records, right?
Exactly, yeah. That's exactly when it was, yeah. The chess was blooming wide open at that time, yeah, with Little Walter and Muddy and Jimmy Rogers and people like that. Then later on, Chuck Berry.
Right. So see, because most people, and I'm included in this, we did not have the opportunity to see that golden era, so to speak. Mm-hmm. You know, and let me ask you this: do you accredit the longevity of your career by being able to witness that golden era of the blues?
Oh, absolutely. That gave me an experience from the ground up, just like I mentioned about a crop. You raise it from you put the seed in the ground, and you see it grow out of the ground, and then it produces fruit, vegetables or whatever it is. Yeah.
So, how long did you perform prior to recording your first cut?
I'm sorry. Rephrase that. I'm sorry.
How long did you do at the Taverns and Jukes? How long did you do that prior to going into the studio and recording a record?
Oh, I did it a few years.
Wow.
A few years. Then I finally, my uncle started a little record label called Atomic H. So my first record I recorded for my uncle. Before I even went to any other commercial record company, he started a little label called Atomic H. So I did my first record on Atomic H called Boogie Woogie Baby and Hillbilly Blues. Yeah.
That's groovy. See, so let me ask, would you consider that label an independent label?
Oh, that would be a very independent label, yeah. It's very obscure. He just...
Wow. So, see, and what I'm getting to on this is I need the people to understand this quote-unquote digital independent era is not new. You know, the only difference between then and now is the time there's some people who do it now, thank God, but the time you guys put into your craft before presenting it and all the steps that you took. Wow. So how was that experience? And did it make, I don't want to say easier, but did it give you a better foundation that you were taking this journey with your uncle, someone that you revered and that looked after you?
Yeah, well, it gives you the experience and the knowledge of it to so when you can learn something from it. Because I never even seen a tape recorder before that. You know, I had heard about tape recorders, but I had never seen a real electric tape recorder in person. So it was quite an experience to see how the whole thing is started from day one.
Wow!
You're putting the songs together. Just the machine itself, how it operates, and put your voice onto a tape or onto wax. You know, it was quite an experience just to learn the whole thing.
I can imagine. I mean, for that matter, it still is. Now, prior to your 15-year-old excursion to Chicago, what were you doing, sir? Did you work? Were you in school? Were you farming?
I was farming. My grandparents, they were sharecroppers. We had 40 acres of land.
Wow.
We raised corn, cotton, and potatoes, and everything, beans, and
wow.
Farmers. Yeah.
God bless. I kind of felt that based on your example of starting as a seed and raising it up.
That's where I got the example from.
Right, but that's the best example. That's life right there. That's just to the audience. I want you to understand who you're listening to. This is not a descendant of the original blues. This is someone from that. We're talking about someone who actually sharecropped.
Oh, absolutely. I picked cotton a minute day when I was a very small child.
Man, this is serious business. And oh my goodness, I have to get an applaud button in some of these things because on my platform we discuss the parallel between the blues and the African American experience on this land. Good and bad. We're not looking to be divisive, but just the historical facts. And you've lived the historical fact as well as playing the music. This is just too much. I'm really excited. Let me ask you a question about the initial label that you and your uncle started. How did the record do? How did you guys get the word out? Besides the fact that you were already performing for a while and made a name for yourself, now you want to get on radio and you want to get the record, you want to get record sales and chart. How did that work?
Well, there was local stations in Chicago, and I went to WGES. This jockey named Al Benson. He's WGES radio. And another guy named Big Bill Hill. He had a radio station called WOPA. I would have to take my records there and try and get them played. My uncle would take them, either whoever, just take them, try and get them paid on local stations.
Wow.
And then getting distribution. A distributor was in Chicago at that time called Ernie and Lena record distributors.
Okay.
My uncle got hooked up with them, and he got some local distribution from that, and a few other places like Texas and stuff. So, but it's a real hard struggle. You just gotta take it from the ground and just
keep moving.
Oh yeah, do the best you can with it. Yes.
Now you're electric on the stage, and your outfits are just as electric as your sound and stage show.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. What makes what inspires you to wear the Indian chief headgear?
That's something I just kind of dreamed up in my head. I'll tell you the story of it. I was playing at a club in a suburb of Chicago called Westmount.
Mm-hmm.
And a lady bartender was working there by the name of Pat Sweet.
Okay.
And she invited myself and my band to a party one night after we got done with the gig. She said, I'm having a party at my house. You guys come over and hang out with us. So we said, okay. So we went over. And when we walked in her house, in the front room of her house, she had this headdress hanging on a rack. So I looked at it. I said, "It's a beautiful piece." And I told her, "I'd like to ask if I could buy that from you for my stage appearance." And she said, "Well, the only problem is I can't sell it to you because it belonged to my deceased husband. He got killed, and it belonged to him."
Mm.
I kept expressing it from time to time at the club when we were working there. And she said, "I tell you what, since you seem to really want it for your stage appearance, She said, I tell you what, I won't sell it to you, but I'll give it to you as a good luck charm, providing you never part with it. So I gave her my word, and I have it. I have it in my basement on the wall as we speak. And that's years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
She just sent me an email just before Christmas saying that she saw some of my interviews and stuff. Pat Sweet, so she's kept in touch. She lives in Michigan now.
Well, that's groovy. Speaking of, someone has a birthday coming up. Am I correct?
Pardon?
Someone has a birthday coming up.
Oh, guess what? January 10th, yeah.
Well, we're celebrating you and your birthday today, so I want all of you good people to tell Mr. Clearwater happy birthday.
Well, thank you very, very much. Thank you. I appreciate you calling me and doing the interview. Thank you, Jack. The last time I was in New York was last year. I played the Terra Blues in New York.
Right, and Terra Blues is a big blues establishment. It's not easy to get there.
Oh yeah, okay.
You know, when I say get there, it's not, well, you know, your longevity. If you have to wait to play there, I will have everyone I know ban that place. You know, now,
quite atmosphere.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this.
Sure.
Because you're still currently active in the music business. So how is this digital era, how do you feel about it, coming from where you came from and adapting to the new form of the music business?
It's really revolutionized, been revolutionized. And but I like the old sound better. I like the wax on the 45s, and I like the wax and LPs.
Right, me too.
Much better than I do the digital. But I realize that digital is the way to go now because everything has been so modernized until it just took over the recording industry and everything.
Right. Well, do you feel that you have a leg up since you started your career many years ago as an independent artist? So do you just apply what you guys did then to now?
Well, yes. I like to keep the foundation of what I had then. I mean, I have to always go back to that because that's the foundation of it is from the old school. That's what makes it survive and give it a real meaning. You know, just like your father and mother, you can go many places in this world, but you would have never gotten there without having a father or a mother.
That's right.
To give you a start. Yeah, so it's the same with music. The foundation of the blues is what's important about the blues.
That's right. Now, speaking of the foundation and the blues and the legacy you're still living, there was something going on during the golden eras of the blues, and even up until the beginning, or not necessarily beginning, but the golden era of Motown. So this happened from up until, if I'm not mistaken, the mid-'60s. When you were performing, it was a segregated audience at that time, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, very, very much so. Absolutely. Yeah, I used to tell, I've done quite a few tours in the South recently, like in Alabama, Mississippi, in Georgia, and I went in restaurants in Birmingham a couple of years back, and my band and I, we walked in. I said, when I first started out, I was showing the restaurant and say, "You see this restaurant? How the people, the black and white people are sitting together, having lunch, drinking coffee, eating ice cream together." I said, when I started out, we couldn't do that.
Wow.
We'd have to go to a little cafe window around the corner and get a bottle of soda or something. You couldn't go into a real restaurant and sit down and have a meal. And they were amazed. I said, no, the way it is now, it's totally different.
Mm.
Because we played Birmingham, and I was showing them this is the way it is now. It's a long, long way from the way it was.
Wow. So,
like the hotels and stuff. There are a lot. When I started, there were no hotels like from here to say Oklahoma or whatever. You'd have to find a room with somebody in someone's house or something.
wow.
And the Holiday Inn started they having the mixed hotels.
Holiday Inn was the first to do that?
The first one that I know of, yeah.
Wow.
Holiday Inn, yeah.
Wow.
You get hotels when you're touring and stuff.
So you really have to love what you're doing to deal with that.
Well, yeah, you have to really be dedicated to really do it with it and stay sane, you know.
Right.
I'll tell you a short story if it's not too long.
No, please go right ahead.
Okay, that was a club in west of Chicago, in a village called Round Lake, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
A buddy that had a band. He was a Polish guy, Eddie Bell, and the Bel Airs. So he and his band worked there like 6 nights a week, like say for months at a time. At that time, they would hire you. They'd keep you as long as people came to see you. You know.
Wow.
These bands like every weekend, every night. They keep the same band for months at a time. So he told the owner, he says, I've got a musician that if we could bring him out here, he would really draw the crowd because the crowd really likes him wherever he performs. And the guy said, Wally was his name. Wally said, well, bring him on out so we can hear him. And then Eddie Bell said, well, that's one thing I have to tell you, Wally. And Wally said, what is that? Wally, he said, he's a black guy. He said, oh, no. The people would never allow it. They would never. He said, no, it'll be nothing but problems if he came out.
Oh, my goodness.
Eddie Bell kept talking to him, and Eddie and his whole band was white. So he said, Eddie Bell, they said, well, if you can't hire this guy, we're going to quit. We're going to quit playing here. That's how sure we are of him. So he said, well, I'll tell you what. Bring him on out one of the nights and let him play that, see what people think. But could you have him stay in the back room when he's off stage, when on intermission?
Wow.
So Eddie Bill brought it back to me, and he gave me the proposal. He said, the guy wants you to come out and perform at his club. He said, but that's the only one thing I have to tell you. His name is Eddie, too. He said, would you mind, like, staying in a separate room when we're on intermission? Because he's afraid for you to mix with the crowd for what the reaction may be.
Wow.
Somehow or another, I got enough bravery. I said, guess what? I'll do it. So they accepted it. I went out. I played for a few nights. And when I came off stage, I'd go in this one separate room. And they had a window. They would bring me a Coke, whatever I want.
Mm-hmm.
Bring it to me, like if I wanted a sandwich or Coke or whatever. And this happened for less than a week. And the guy saw how warm the people were toward me when I'd walk off stage. And Wallace said to Eddie, I tell you what, just have him come on out and mix up with the crowd. People love this guy, you know. I never had a minute's trouble. Never. No trouble.
Wow. That you know, it's rough, it's courageous, it's heroic because it's gentlemen like you, why cats like me and Marquise Knox and John Tavius Willis and Shelton Poe can actually go out there, you know, because I don't know how I would react in those moments.
Right, yeah. So it took a lot of courage for me to just say, you mean you're going to allow yourself to be put in a position where you're working in a place and you got to separate yourself from the crowd. And the band that you're working with, they can socialize, but you can't. So I said, well, it took a lot of courage, but I said, maybe it's better I do it, and if I don't do it.
Right.
Well, okay.
Right.
Broke through, and I from the entire North Side, every club that's predominantly white, they started to book me after that. So, well, this guy's all right. Because at that time, I was doing a lot of Chuck Berry songs, and the white people, they really loved listening to Chuck Berry. So. Well, this guy's he's cool, you know.
No, Chuck he revolutionized the music himself, amongst other things.
Rock and roll.
Yes, indeed. You know,
so far as I'm concerned, that's who invented rock and roll. Yeah.
Absolutely. And does he still take cash? And well, let's not even put that up there. So now, have you done any gospel lately? Because I know you did gospel music. You've done pretty much everything that comes out of our diaspora.
Oh, yeah, not lately. I haven't done any gospel lately, but I'm thinking of my new album that I'm working on. I'm thinking of putting one gospel song on there. You know, just I always have felt very close to the gospel music. You know. So it's,
Would you say? Well, let me ask you this: would you say that gospel and the blues, because you come from the old school, when if you said gospel and the blues was the same, you know, you'd be asked to leave service. Do you think they're the same? I mean, we know it comes from the same cloth and everything, but do you think they're the same? Do you see where the difference is?
Well, yeah, it's got the same. The music itself has got the same feeling to it. It's a spiritual feeling. Well, and blues. It's folk music. That's why it's called folk music, because it's about folks. Of folks, and that's why it got labeled the blues, because they say, well, the blues is the devil's music, you know. And gospel is God's music, but it's all folk music. It's about folks.
No, now you're talking my language, because I'm a firm believer in blues being folk music. Some people see a difference in that. I like how you explain that.
Oh yeah, it's definitely folks music.
Now, how did you feel when you won the Lifetime Achievement Award and the Blues Music Award and all these accolades?
It was a very, very, very good feeling. It's something. It's like somebody giving you your flowers while you can still smell them. Somebody showing you that they really appreciate what you have done with your life. It's just like when you go to high school, college, and you graduate, and you get that diploma. It's you had to work to get it, you know, but it's a joy to get to receive it, you know.
No, I dig that. I dig. Now, I want to take it back again, because a lot of people romanticize about juke joints and have this nostalgia about it because it has to do with the music.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we know that it could be a dangerous place. Do you remember any real crazy stories from being there as a child? Or an adult?
From the entertainment industry, you mean?
No, just at the juke joints. When you're at the juke joints, any crazy stories?
No, well, yeah, I've seen some fights and this and that, you know, but it's I've been fortunate enough not to see anything really devastating, which I'm real thankful for that.
Absolutely.
Some fights used to break out once in a while, but other than that, you know, because I've heard of like when B.B. King, when they went It was Lucille. That's where the name Lucille came from. When I guess some people got into a fight over a lady named Lucille. Go back and get his guitar. Go back in the house and get it.
That's right.
Get Lucille.
That's right. See, but let me ask, as a legacy in the blues, do you believe that blues music and culture should be taught in African American studies?
Absolutely. That's right. Very much so. Because the next generations, they need to know about this. Unless it's taught in school, it'll just be a passing thing. They will have no knowledge of it. This is very important that it's taught in our public schools. It's highly, highly important.
Mm.
It's our heritage.
Right.
It's our heritage. They need to know about like people like Willie Dixon and with Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, and on and on.
Right, absolutely. Do you go to some of these blues in the school programs or any colleges and give lectures?
I do, yeah, once in a while I do. As a matter of fact, the University of Chicago wanted me to do one last year, but then I had to go on tour, and I wasn't able to do it. But I've done quite a few in schools, and I want to do more because handing it down to the next generations is what's very, very important. That's going to be the salvation of it.
Absolutely. Could you give us a brief example of what you cover when you speak to these young folk?
And I'll tell you the other thing. If we don't start preserving it and teaching it to our children, the white people are going to take it over. They love the blues, and some of them are very, very good at performing it and playing it. And when the kids hear it, they're going to think, well, this was created by white people.
Right.
Because I've had a lot of people come up to me, kids, and say, could you play Stormy Monday by Eric Clapton?
Wow. I'll
say, no, I'll play you Stormy Monday, but it was done by T-Bone Walker.
That's right.
Yeah. And then they go and look it up, and they say, oh, it was written and done by T-Bone Walker. But they heard it by Eric Clapton.
Wow.
You don't know T-Bone Walker or B.B. King or whoever had anything to do with it. But they, say Bobby Bland, they hear songs and say, well, I thought this white person was doing the song. No, they're doing a copy of it, but.
Wow. So I'm happy you brought that up. What do you think is one of the reasons why? I'm not even asking about white people, about the black generation. I guess during disco, after Motown went for a long time, but pretty much after the 70s, you had B.B. King, you had Bobby Blue Bland, and a couple of other.
Parker, yeah.
Right. But where did it turn to where less black people were participating or learning or enjoying the blues and more white people started? Do you remember at that point?
I do remember part of it. Yeah, it started when I was a kid. I used to hear some of the older people say, oh, I don't want to hear no blues. I don't want to hear that old Jimmy Reed slave type of stuff.
Wow.
And I was saying to them, this is the music that's going to surface and it's going to be around for many, many years. Because I'd have Jimmy Reed records, I'd have B.B. King, I'd have Muddy Waters. They call it, oh, that old blues stuff. This is the real stuff. I mean,
exactly.
And all the other music that's where it came from. It came from the blues, like R&B and pop music. It's the foundation of it. It's definitely on the blues.
So they were saying then that they were calling blues at that time. You're sharing with us that it was slave music.
Absolutely, yeah. They looked at it. That's why we wasn't allowed to play it on Sunday in our homes in the South.
Wow.
The blues in the day of the week, but you don't play it on Sunday, like on your phonograph, on your record player or nothing. They didn't want to hear you playing blues in the house on Sunday. So
wow.
In fact, I lived it.
Yeah, yes, you did, sir. Wow. I hope you guys are paying attention because you are definitely learning them blues this evening.
It's the music of the soul. Yeah, blues is the music of the soul.
Well, now, so let me ask you this then. So now, in the early 70s to the early 80s, another black music came about that was yet again the voice and cries of the oppressed, right? Of those with less resources, hip hop and rap music. Would you think, or would you say that hip hop, rap music is the great grandchild of the blues?
Yes, right. Because rap, hip hop, and rap. Did you ever hear the song by Louis Jordan? They was rocking. You never seen such shoving and dropping till big of done. He was rapping on that song.
Yes, sir.
Back in the 40s. He was rapping on it, and also a lot of Chuck Berry songs. He's rapping like running to and fro, working hard at the mill, never failed in the mill yet, coming riding bill. Too much monkey business.
Wow.
Salesman talking to me, trying to run me up a creek. So you can buy it, go and try it. You can pay me next week.
Wow.
That's what rap artists do. They rap and they talk their music.
No, you're absolutely right. And those are great examples. I hope you guys are paying attention because Chuck Berry was a rapper that slang a guitar.
Absolutely, yeah. It was rapping way back then, especially Louis Jordan.
That's right. So now you're currently working on an album?
Oh yes, I'm working on new songs for my new album now. That's what I'm in the middle of doing. So, hopefully, between now and the spring, we should be going in the studio.
Okay, so I won't ask you anything about it because I'm kind of eager, and I want to ask some questions, but we could hold off. We could hold.
Pieces, but I've got it all I don't have written down. I've got it in my head someplace.
I dig it. So now, I want to ask you before, because we're about to wrap up, and I want to thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure talking to you. Jack, you were a really nice person to talk to. I really appreciate it. The next time I come to New York to Terra Blues or wherever, I hope to get to see you in person. Absolutely.
I'll be there. Well, I don't know if I could bring my kids there, but I'll definitely be there with my wife. We'll be there. If we could pack the place, we will. But what I want to ask you is about the blues festivals. I'm stuttering because blues festivals are great, but it's kind of lopsided.
Yeah, but it's a good thing because a lot of people get to hear blues where they ordinarily wouldn't hear it if they had to go to, say, a blues club to hear it, and that's where I think it's a big help to the musicians because
it gives them a platform.
Absolutely, platform. Yeah, they get to play venues that normally they wouldn't play if they were just restricted to blues clubs, which
Now, see, now that
job.
right? No, that's very good because I didn't think of it as that, and that is actually true because a lot of times, actually, for anybody who plays music with an instrument, whether it be jazz to me is blues, but regardless to whatever genre or title you give it, if you're a musician, an artist that plays an instrument, for the most part, it's hard to play nowadays. So that would be the actual spot where you can go and get that work in, as they say.
Oh, absolutely right. And plus, you can invite your whole family to a festival like the kids and everybody can come, and they get exposed to blues where ordinarily they wouldn't be exposed to it. Because laws and restriction in clubs, why you can't if you got to be a certain age to get in. So
right.
At any age, I've had some kids come up to me. I did a festival in Arizona, in Tucson, summer. So this lady brought her little granddaughter to see my concert. So they got there. She was, I think she's 5 years old or something. 5 years old. They got there and got a seat, and she told her granddaughter, "We came to hear Eddy Clearwater." She said, "Yeah." The grandmother said, "Yeah, we came to see Eddy Clearwater." And the little girl said, "Well, I don't just want to see him; I want to meet him as well." She don't just want to hear you; she want to meet you. I said, "Well, bring her on back." So now they're all hers. I'm just happy to meet you. I want to hear you play, but I wanted to meet you in person.
Wow. But see, that's the reward, right?
Exactly. That's a big reward right there. Yeah, she was as cute as a kid. As cute as she could be.
Wow. So, let's talk about that for a moment right before we wrap, because we spoke about the accolades. We spoke about getting past the tough times of the social and economic and racial climate. But the one thing that I think trumps everything is how you inspire, affect people, and how they receive you. How does that feel when you have those moments?
That's the greatest feeling in the world. That's one of the biggest awards you could receive just when people... I'll get a letter sometime from a kid or a guy that's 19 or 20 years old. He's like, "You really inspired me. I was so down and out before I came to see your concert, and I've been uplifted ever since." And something, and then I saved the letters. I put some of them on my wall in my office because it is so touching. And you just you have no idea that you touched anybody that night. You just figure, well, and they was totally impressed.
Wow. Well, so it could be said that you took part in an era in history that brought races together, because you played venues so segregated, like the story you shared with us. You kind of broke barriers in this location.
Yeah, well, that's what they said. They did an article earlier last year about me playing on the north side of Chicago, and they were saying I kind of introduced live blues to the north side of Chicago because there was no black bands playing.
Wow.
Until so I just feel blessed that I was able to do it. Myself and my friend Eddie Bell, and I had an all Mexican band named Armando and the Chili Peppers.
Wow.
Performed together for some years. Yeah.
Wow, that's a blessing. Hey, listen, sir, I really would like to thank you for taking the time and talking about the blues with me on Jack Dappa Blues.
Well, thank you so much, Jack, and continue doing what you're doing, because you're doing us a great service as well. I got news for you. You're doing us a great service, and I'm highly appreciative of it very much, and just continue doing what you're doing.
Thank you, sir. I will. Your next performance, where people can find you, who they need to speak to find you, so they can get you to their town.
Oh yes, yeah. My next performance is at Space in Evanston, which will be on the 6th of this month. Friday. This coming Friday, as a matter of fact. Yeah, the 6th of January.
To make sure y'all get out there.
Oh, I'll be glad to see you coming. We'll have a good time together, for sure.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I'll be in touch, and we will have you back up here. And again, happy birthday.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, have a good day, too. And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year's, yeah.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Guys, that was right there, history. You just heard my interview with Mr. Eddy Clearwater. That was history. Not was, is history. You got to understand something. When we talk about the blues, we talk about the blues. When you learn them blues, you know, for most, I don't want to say for most, but for a percentage of people, when they hear blues and they think about the music, it's nostalgic to them. You know, they romanticize about certain things. Or when they talk about the blues, they talk about Eric Clapton or Stevie Ray Vaughan. Now, mind you, I am not taking away anything from these two men as being musicians. Excuse me. Because they're great musicians. And that's not even what I'm discussing. What I'm saying is, before you can speak about those great musicians, you need to speak about these great musicians. I usually do this, but I'm going to end this segment with a song. And this song is from Mr. Clearwater. And I think, I ain't going to talk no more until the next segment.
Got himself together. Let's have a blues club where